Welcome to the Learning Can't Wait podcast, a Full Mind production. At Full Mind, our vision is to ensure every child has access to an exceptional education. Each episode, we will be joined by pathfinders within and around the education space who are bringing about transformational change on behalf of deserving students. I am your host, Haley Sphero. Welcome back, everybody, to the Learning Can't Wait podcast. My name is Haley Sphero, and I'm so excited to introduce you to our next guest. We have Adrienne Emerson from Sphero, who is soon to be, and by the time this goes live, an implementation specialist. Welcome, Adrienne.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to talk to you today about my job and my career in Sphero and all the good stuff.
I'm so excited for you to do just that. So why don't we dive right in?
Great.
Can you tell us all how you became the personal and professional version of yourself?
Yes, this is a fun kind of story. I, like many people, was very lost in high school. So I was doing all the things. I was skiing, I was swimming, I was in band, I was playing 100 instruments, and just trying to find my thing. And I was just shooting a whole bunch of darts at a dartboard. And one of my friends said, "Hey, you should join the robotics team because we get to go to Disney World." And I was like, "Heck yes, this sounds great." So I interviewed my sophomore year, got on the robotics team, first robotics team, 191, the X-Cats from Rochester, New York. And I was instantaneously hooked. So we would go every Wednesday and Saturday to this place. It was on One Mustard Street. It was an old French's mustard factory. And we would build a robot. And I learned how to machine. I learned how to wire. I learned how to CAD. I learned how to do strategy. I learned how to drive robots. And I was just all in from day one. So I continued with that team the rest of my high school career. I got a scholarship through first to go to college. I ended up attending Clarkson University, which is in upstate New York, as a applied math and statistics major, and ended up mentoring the robotics team that they had there. And then took a couple jobs, was kind of trying to find my way. And one of my friends in Greenville, Texas, called me and said, "Hey, our robotics coach is leaving. They need someone to coach robotics and teach math." And I was like, "Oh, I can do both those things." And that was in 2009. And so that's when I started my education career in Greenville, Texas, where I worked my entire public education career for 12 years, coaching robotics, teaching math, engineering, and robotics. And then about 4 years ago, I came over to Sphero.
I love that story and all the anecdotes you shared, particularly about Mustard Street, but also how you kind of fell into the fact that you get to go to Disney, and that's what led
Yeah.
you to this career and passion you have. Can you talk to us a little bit about what is it you're working on at Sphero, and why are you excited about its potential to help kids learn and grow that maybe haven't found their passion yet either?
Yeah, one of the things I used to tell my students is the reason you do something doesn't matter. What you do once you have those opportunities, like that's what matters. So I had a girl, I still actually keep in touch with her. She joined the robotics team because the guy she was dating, they broke up and he hated robotics. So she joined robotics so that she could, I don't know, get back at him or whatever. And she ended up being one of our best students. And she would tell me that story. And I said, the reason doesn't matter. I only joined robotics so I could go to Disney World. So, what you do when you have an opportunity is usually what counts. But so at Sphero, one of the things when I was teaching, so Greenville High School is where I spent my entire educational career, and it's a Title I school in rural East Texas. And the thing that I noticed about my students is that they had all the potential in the world. They were smart, they had grit and, just wanted to learn. But most of the things by the time they got to high school in the engineering and robotics space are so advanced that if they've never seen an engineering kit or a robotics kit before, they look at it, and they're like, meh, seems too hard, not for me. I would like to go join another elective. I did not love that because even if you don't enter into a STEM or engineering career, the thought process and the skills that you learn in some of these classes are going to be helpful for you in whatever career you want. So when I started working at Sphero, the thing that drew me to the company is really we try to make products that have a really low floor and are really fun. So when students see them for the first time, they're like, "Oh, hey, that looks pretty easy. I can do that." And then they can start scaffolding on top of those skills. And that's really not only when I came to Sphero, that's what they were already doing, but now in my current position here, not only with our products, but also with the content that we write and provide to teachers and students. That's really always the number one goal. Make things that are fun, that are easy to start so that we don't lose kids along the way, and then scaffold them up to a place where they can digest these really complex topics and be able to understand them and not want to just walk away.
I love the statement that have a really low floor. I've been talking a lot about my own son and my own experience as an educator and this frustration tolerance kids feel when they engage with something that they believe is too hard. And I want to like segment for a second and talk about what that means for people of color and for women who are underrepresented in the field of STEM, STEAM, and all the other things that start with S that relate to the topic that Sphero is approaching. It means that when you go to engage with something that feels too challenging and you quit, whether because you're neurodivergent, you have a disability, whatever the reason, you're less likely to engage in the future. And we already know that women and people of color don't fill out the field of STEM as much as everyone else. And so I love that that's central to the work you're doing. Can you talk about like how are schools using the tools today and how is it changing the education landscape in STEAM education?
Yeah, started my career at a high school level with robotics and would notice that when my students came in, most of the kids that join the robotics team want to build a robot. That seems pretty standard. They hear robotics teams like, oh, I like building stuff. Let me build a robot. But building a robot is so much more than, screwing some pieces of metal together. It's really about design. It's about integration. It's about electrical components. It's about programming. But kids see building, right? They just want to build stuff. They want to get in with their hands. They want to build stuff. So as I continued in my career, I started to see like, okay, well, we're teaching them in our lower grades how to build robots. Great skill. But we're not necessarily teaching these other skills. So how to program them, how to integrate them, how to design them efficiently. And, you know, in most people, kids, adults alike, you're gonna solve every problem with the tools in your toolbox. So if the only thing you have in your toolbox is a hammer, you're gonna solve every problem with a hammer. If you open it up and you have like a hammer and a screwdriver, it's like, okay, I can solve problems with both of these. Um, but once you have a full toolbox and you have everything you need, all of a sudden you can work more efficiently, you can solve more problems than you used to, and you are doing things in using tools in the way they were intended. Robotics and engineering to me are exactly the same. So if a kid only practices building a robot, they are going to see everything as a building or a mechanical problem. And they're going to try and solve it using design and mechanical building. If we give them the tools to understand how sensors and electronics work, how programming can elevate your design, then all of a sudden kids are like, oh, I can solve this problem using all of these skills, and all of a sudden I have a way better solution than if I was just trying to solve it using these one skill. That's to me where Sphero is really like where our products really fit in robotics programs right now because a lot of our products, Bolt Plus and Rover Plus, both, they come to you already put together and you can immediately start programming. So there's not this distraction of, oh, I have to build this thing before I can program it, or let me do, something else. Let me design this, design that. Nope. You can take it out of the box. You can immediately start programming. And all of a sudden, it's like, I say it's like trying to teach calculus when you haven't taught algebra, geometry, and everything separately. Like you can't just go straight to robotics. You got to teach all the things separately, and then you can put them together. And so then once they get to high school, if they have all those tools, they can start putting them together and really creating things that before maybe seemed really hard or really impossible. So that's what I love about our products and what immediately kind of drew me to Sphero. And now, not only with Bowl Plus and Rover Plus, where students can get right into programming, we're now adding in products like Blueprint and our Blueprint engineering kit that has sensors and lots of mechanical pieces where students can, build up crazy things and anything they can think of, learn basic mechanical concepts. And so all of our products are teaching separate skills that you can then combine together to make like one cool robotics thing.
Adrienne, your passion is so infectious. I also know, though, that you have spent some time abroad and have witnessed some of what's happening in other parts of the world as it relates to robotics and STEM education. Can you talk about what similarities and differences you've observed elsewhere as compared to the United States?
Yeah. So I spent two significant periods abroad. One was teaching English in Italy for a summer, which was incredible and totally challenged me because I am definitely a math person, not an English person. And then I also spent a couple summers in China working specifically with robotics programs there. So the thing, okay, sorry,
All good.
start over. Um, so in those two different experiences, I learned a lot of different things. Um, in Italy, when I was teaching English, I learned that students there are completely fascinated with things that are different from them, and they just want to soak it up. So not only did they want to learn my language, they wanted to learn everything about me, and they also wanted to teach me. And I loved every second of it. It was amazing. Uh, but in China, I spent a couple years over there helping with getting their robotics program kind of off the ground. And they do things very differently over there in terms of extracurriculars and clubs and things that you can join when you're in high school. And it's all very tracked. So, you can only get into specific programs if you've done XYZ before then. And everything is kind of more club based and more pay to play almost. Whereas the schools here, you really can go to basically any high school in America and you have your choice of extracurriculars. And most of them you can just join. Most of them you don't have to pay a significant amount of money. Some of them you do, but for the most part in public education, you can have some sort of participation in these without a big effort. And one of the things I love, I was just talking to a coworker about this the other day. One of the things I love about high school is it's the place where you get to try everything and see what sticks. And I the context we were talking about this in was I said, I love that students are able to like join a select softball team and really hone in their skills. But to me, high school is not about that. High school is about experiencing all the things that you can for free, because this is like the last time in your education you really get to do that, and seeing what types of things you enjoy that maybe you wouldn't have. And so I love that in our education system that students are able to do that and really just, you don't have to do something for all 4 years of high school, or you can do multiple activities. And I still coach a high school robotics team, even though I'm not in the classroom, and I always strive to be flexible with the kids. You got a soccer game? That's okay. You can miss practice on Fridays. Go to your soccer games. Just creating well-rounded individuals by being in all these different activities, I think, is what really makes our education system stand out in the other places that I've been.
Thanks for sharing that insight. I think, it's easy to get stuck in our own echo chamber in the United States, and it's cool to see what's out there and also compare it to what's here.
Yeah.
you emphasize a lot about student engagement and motivation. And one of the things you just named is that you allow for choice, right? You want kids to be well rounded, you want them to be engaged. What are some of the other most effective strategies you know of to engage young learners in their own education?
Um, you know, I this is so funny. I just competed in a robotics competition this weekend. A bunch of my friends that have never experienced robotics came. So I just had a bunch of these conversations as well. And one of the things that I said, the most important thing to me when coaching, when teaching, is relationship building. And it is a skill. It's not just something that we magically, some people are good at and some people are not. It's an actual skill. And I have worked really hard on creating that skill and really working to see every kid that I come in contact with. And once you have a relationship with a student, everything falls into place after that. Everything opens up. They tell you what they're uncomfortable doing. They tell you what they're comfortable doing. And all of a sudden, you can adjust what you're doing based on that piece of information. Um, so just doing that, making them feel comfortable, and again, making them feel like they have choices, making them feel like, sorry, making them feel like they have a choice and that they can be an adult and they can take responsibilities for those choices. You're not just ramming information down their throat and telling them what to do. You're treating them with respect. I call them mini adults. You're treating them like mini adults. Um, and when they make a wrong decision, you're not, hammering them and saying, "Oh my gosh, like, can't believe you did this." Like, "Oh, okay. Better luck next time." One of my favorite things to say when I was in the classroom was like, "Oh, they don't have the chemicals in their brain to make that choice yet." And when I would just kind of always remind myself, like, it's not personal. It's not anything that they're doing because they want to do something wrong. They just don't have the chemicals yet. So it's okay. We'll just, learn and grow, and next time it'll be better. So I just making a relationship with a kid and just not being too hard on them, holding them accountable for sure. But most of the time, just being kind and being patient and listening and having a relationship with kids is all you need.
Such an important message. I could not agree more that relationships are the core, the center,
Yep.
the heart of why we need teachers and why the teacher shortage is so impactful across the U.S. And I love hearing other people phrase it differently. And you did that. You phrased it differently and attacked it from a different angle that I haven't had a conversation about recently, and I really love
Mm.
that.
Well, thanks.
I want to go back to the tools that Sphero is creating, all the components and product.
Yeah.
How do schools with limited resources or even limited technical expertise, how can they access a tool like Sphero and Bolt and all these other components that are being built?
I think one of the things that our team, being the content team at Sphero, really understands, all of us are former educators on the content team. So I think one of the things we really understand specifically with STEM education is you get two types of teachers when you're in CTE or STEM education. The first type is an amazing, absolutely awesome teacher that came from math or science background, maybe even didn't, but normally math or science background, and they say, "Hey, use this thing." And the teacher is so good at class management and they can teach a lesson and they can do all the things great. They just don't know the content that we're teaching with our products. The second type of teacher is the teacher that came from industry and has never taught a day in their life. So they know the content up and down and they are an expert in their field, but they have never lesson planned. They've never sat in a classroom and they've never, had to teach concepts and get kids ready for state exams or anything like that. So those are the two types of teachers that we normally are getting when we're talking about teaching STEM. And obviously, those two types of teachers are very different. So we try to keep that in mind when we write all of our content. So not only do we try and break down the actual content to its simplest form, not only for the students, but for the teachers that may not be familiar that may not be familiar with that content. But we also try and break it down in a way that if you are really familiar with the content, but you've never taught before, we walk you through how to do that. Hey, have everybody take out their bolts. Have everybody open their app. Have everybody put this block here. And so we really try and emphasize both of those in our content. And I think just being all former educators, not only are we all former educators, but we are all different backgrounds. So different grades, different subjects. And so we work incredibly well as a team. But we also have the ability to just like understand the really specific problems that teachers have in classrooms and really try to address those in our content. We don't always get it right the first time, but we are always improving and writing more content to address what teachers want and need and the feedback that we get from lessons. And I think that our products are amazing. And I always say if I had had them in my classroom, I would have been a better teacher, which is the best compliment I can give. However, I think what makes our products stand out really is the content that we provide with them.
I love it. I appreciate teams being comprised of former educators, or I like to call us forever educators, because
Yeah, that's
you never
good.
really stop being a teacher,
Yeah.
even if you leave the classroom. I'm curious, you're leading me perfectly to our final question here, which is wild because the time has flown. But what advice would you give a teacher who's starting their career today, Adrienne?
Oh, yeah. I thought about this a lot when you sent me the questions, and I had a bunch of different answers. And what I finally decided on, I hope resonates with people. Don't let the administrative and hard parts of teaching distract you from the real reason that you're there. It's so easy to get bogged down with the IEPs and the grading and the attendance and the parent meetings and all of the things that take so much like emotional and mental energy and seem like they just drag you down at every point. But if you can find a way to separate that in your brain and really just focus on the fact that if every kid walks into your classroom and walks out in a better mood, then you've done your job for the day. All the rest doesn't really matter. And you won't hit that goal every day, but if you can get there most days, you're doing a pretty good job. So, yeah,
Adrienne, you have such a good attitude. I can imagine what it's like to work with you in this space. Having this conversation feels both joyful and important, and I'm so grateful you spent your time with us today.
Oh, thank you so much, and I just appreciate your kind words. And I am just a STEM education enthusiast, and I
No
just love
just. I don't
kids.
want to
Yeah.
hear that. No just STEM.
Right.
There's so much importance in that work,
Yeah.
and I'm grateful you're doing it.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. It was wonderful to be here today.
And thank you to everybody who tuned in. Thanks for listening to the Learning Can't Wait podcast. If you like what you heard, please rate, review, and share this episode. Be the first to know when we have a new episode by subscribing wherever you listen to podcasts. If you'd like to be a guest on the show or have a suggestion for an episode, email us at podcast@fullmindlearning.com.